I've just been reading a draft of a thesis that one of my students here at Salem State, who's a senior, is writing for their senior thesis. So they're a history major, so they've been through 4 years of college history. And the advice that I was giving this student this morning, I think, is really the same critical advice that I would give all students of history, that history is not just the events that happened in the past, but it's how we understand, analyze, and interpret those events. And I feel like at all levels, and this goes from high school students to college students to graduate students to, my own writing, there's this temptation to just try to get all the facts straight. But where the real excitement of writing history comes in is where we try to draw meaning from those facts and analyze and interpret them. And that's also a lot of the time where we do our original work. Like, how do we understand these things that have happened in the past? How do we turn them into, how do we use our analysis to say something original about them? So that's like the most exciting part of writing history to me. Writing history or learning history or reading history. I mean, like when you read a book, like, oh, okay, so here's just one example. The Louisiana Purchase. Have you guys all learned about the Louisiana Purchase? So what you probably learned is that the United States bought all this land from France. Is that what you learned? Yeah?
Yep.
That's what all my students learned. But who lived on that land? Like, in what respect did that land belong to France? Who actually lived there?
The indigenous people lived on the land, and we basically kicked them out in the process of doing our idea of Protestants and manifest destiny.
So I couldn't hear everything that you said, but I think I caught enough of it to know the direction you were going in. Yes, indigenous people lived on that land, not French people. The indigenous people who lived there didn't know that that all of that land belonged to France. In what respect did it belong to France? That France had the right to sell it to somebody, and then it belonged to the United States. So the Louisiana Purchase is followed by many decades of warfare for the United States to actually remove the population from that territory and establish its rule there. So, it's true that the United States bought that land from France, but it's also meaningless. So that's what I mean by, to me, what's interesting and important is how we interpret and make meaning out of events of the past, rather than just memorizing, yes, in 1803, the United States bought the Louisiana Purchase from France. That doesn't mean anything.